The passage we're looking at from the 13th chapter of Luke's Gospel is one of three in this Gospel that address the issue of Sabbath observance, particularly whether it's lawful to heal a person on the Sabbath. For Jews of that day, the fourth commandment to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy was the core of their religion. We always see the list of the Ten Commandments. Usually they're summarized in one sentence. You shall not kill, you shall not bear false witness, and so on. But I want you to look at Exodus 20 here for just a moment, because you'll see that they're not just one sentence commandments. You shall not make for yourself an idol, and then there's an explanation of that. But notice the fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. And then there's a whole paragraph of explanation about why and how to do that. And because of that, this is not the sort of thing you see on these pictures where Moses comes down with the two stone tablets with Roman numerals, down each side. The Ten Commandments are a bit more complex than that. And for centuries, Jewish teachers had debated the finer points of this law about the Sabbath. What does it mean to keep it holy? What do we have to do or not do? What exceptions might be made under what circumstances? Now, in an emergency, they finally decided work could be done on the Sabbath. If someone was injured, if there was a fire, those kinds of ox in the ditch situations, you were permitted to respond. But in the story in Luke's gospel today, as in the other two Sabbath healings in his gospel, there is no emergency. So look at it from the Jewish leader's standpoint for just a minute. This woman has been afflicted for 18 years. Why couldn't Jesus wait one more day to heal her? Then everybody would be satisfied, the law would be observed, no problem. Unfortunately, this kind of legalism is not dead. It's dying in many places, but it's not dead. When I moved to Holland in 1978, Sunday was a very quiet day. Few stores were open. You could not buy alcoholic beverages. Everybody came down to Saugatuck to do that. No one dared to mow a lawn on Sunday. All of that has changed now, though I can't bring myself to mow the grass on Sunday. In some other cultures, though, strict observance of the law is still paramount. In Mecca in 2002, a fire broke out in a girls' school. Religious leaders on the scene refused to let some of the girls out of the building because they were not attired as Islamic law required. And they refused to let rescuers enter the building for fear of contact between men and women. As a result, 15 girls died. But of course, the law was observed. Throughout the Gospels, we find the theme that law is not as important as human need. As Jesus says in Mark 2:27, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Luke records the story in which that saying appears in his chapter 6, but for some reason does not record that particular saying. It certainly expresses the spirit in which Jesus is operating in this story that we're going to read. So let's turn our attention now to this passage as it's printed in your bulletin. On a Sabbath, Jesus was teaching in one of the synagogues, and a woman was there who had been crippled by a spirit for 18 years. She was bent over and could not straighten up at all. When Jesus saw her, he called her forward and said to her, "Woman, you are set free from your infirmity." Then he put his hands on her, and immediately she straightened up and praised God. Indignant because Jesus had healed on the Sabbath, the synagogue leader said to the people, "There are 6 days for work, so come and be healed on those days, not on the Sabbath." The Lord answered him, "You hypocrites, doesn't each of you on the Sabbath untie your ox or donkey from the stall and lead it out to give it water? Then should not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan has kept bound for 18 long years, be set free on the Sabbath day from what bound her?" When he said this, all his opponents were humiliated, but the people were delighted with all the wonderful things he was doing. This is the word of the Lord.